Changing the way teachers get evaluated. That's the goal of newly proposed legislation. Hear from one teaching advocate on what this change could mean for educators. Hello and welcome to Empire State Weekly. I'm Jamie DeLine in Albany. The state education department and a major union representing educators coming together to call for legislation to change how teachers are evaluated. NYSUT President Melinda Person, Education Commissioner Betty Rosa, and Assemblymember Michael Benedetto speaking on the agreement earlier this week. The bill would remove the tie between teacher evaluation and student test performance.
What this bill will do is return the conversation about what teacher evaluation looks like back to local control. It will remove the requirement that your evaluation be test-based, and that focus on high-stakes tests will create some space for student curiosity and love of learning.
Advocates believe the governor will likely support the measure. Joining me now to give additional reaction to this change to teacher evaluations is Jamie Safone, the Executive Vice President for New York State United Teachers Union. Jamie, thank you so much for being on. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon, everyone.
So when it comes to changing teacher evaluations, earlier this week I was in the room as the Education Commissioner and the NYSUT President walked over with an agreement to the state lawmakers saying that they want changes done. What is the current way that teacher evaluations are conducted?
So teacher evaluations currently are really kind of a mystery to some. There's a lot of components to how teachers are evaluated currently. But I think the most significant is that it really has an overemphasis on state assessments, the high stakes assessments for students and their performance. And also the current system has kind of turned into a little bit of a gotcha, right? When administrators are walking into the rooms. So we're really trying to make it more of a supportive and professional growth and supportive practice.
So kids' test scores would no longer be tied into how well a teacher is doing in the classroom, correct?
Exactly.
And what would the new changes be? How would teachers now be evaluated if this legislation were to pass through the state legislature?
Sure, great. So really, like we said before, the current process, our educators don't really see the connection in their evaluation and the work that they're doing each and every day. So the new changes would hand back to local control, which means that they can negotiate, locals and districts can negotiate for themselves what would be best for their school community in terms of evaluation. This would be more of a respectful system that values our educators who are just really trying to do the best for their students.
So the individual school districts themselves would determine how to go about evaluating a new teacher, per se.
Yes, and this is agency for educators now in the way that evaluation looks. Again, it could be more of a supportive process based on feedback, based on growth and development of educators, rather than forcing educators to teach to this system of overemphasizing high stakes assessments and scores.
And this change in evaluation, this is supported by a bunch of different unions that involve education and the State Department of Education itself.
Yeah, this is a really exciting time. It was a really delicate process because we had a collaboration between all of the stakeholders, and everyone really agreed there was a problem. And we did generally agree on the solution. So just working out those details took time to find a really just and fair way to look at evaluation.
Now,
the bill is almost 50 pages long.
Was this something that was years in the making, or was it just something that all of a sudden people are like, okay, let's get together, these are the changes that need to happen?
Yeah, it was years in the making of identifying that there was a problem. But like any good thing, it takes time because every one of those stakeholders really wanted to get it right. And so there's a lot of details that had to be worked out. but it's done, and we are really excited to get it passed.
So what do you think this response is going to be? I know this agreement was literally just delivered to the state lawmakers earlier this week. As you mentioned, it's 50 pages. Have they had time to look at it? Have you heard any feedback otherwise?
I haven't heard any feedback directly from the legislative offices. However, I've heard a lot of feedback in the field from our educators. And really, there is so much excitement over the potential of a new system, right? No, locally negotiated, based on educator agency, looking at this through professional learning, growth, really personalized, empowering educators to experiment with new strategies that work best for students in today's classroom. It's a really respectful way to look at the profession. And so there's a lot of excitement in the field right now.
And when it comes to getting this done and having the lawmakers pass it and then potentially the governor signing it, are you hearing that this will be after session, or will this, or before the session ends, or do you think this will be a part of the state budget in any way?
I mean, we're looking at this, that this is not necessarily part of the state budget. So we're looking to get this done as quickly as possible.
And switching gears to the state budget, I know education is a big talker at the state capitol right now, and changing possibly the way school aid gets distributed could happen. What are your thoughts on that, and what are you hearing from local school districts?
Yeah, so when we heard about the budgetary cuts, the 4 NYSET officers under the leadership of President Melinda Person, we made it a priority to get out into the school districts that are being, or that could be highly impacted by the foundation aid cuts. And what we found is across all of New York State, there's great things happening for kids. There's so many opportunities being provided, access to so much learning besides just the core 4, we call it, that happens traditionally in a school classroom setting. And these budgetary cuts could severely and significantly impact our students and our educators' abilities to participate in these, or to even design these learning opportunities. We've heard anything from staffing being cut and programs being cut, or down to potential field trips being cut. I mean, these are the ways that students learn. This is the real life learning that they do. And so it's really very upsetting and challenging to have these conversations with school districts around what decisions they may have to make when they are solely trying to do what's best for children.
And I know both the Senate and the Assembly have rejected the governor's proposal to make any changes to the foundation formula aid. Is this something that you think could potentially hold up the state budget?
Well, hopefully if it does hold up the state budget, it is because they are relooking at the formula and the foundation aid that will be distributed to our school districts. But I hope not.
All right, we'll have to wait and see. Jamie, thank you so much for joining us. Always great to have you on.
Thank you so much.
Increasing birth control access to those in need. That's the goal of newly signed legislation. Coming up, we'll speak with the State Health Commissioner on what impact this new policy will have. If you have a comment or story idea, let us know. You can email us at news@news10.com. You can also reach out on X, formerly known as Twitter, at WTEN. Welcome back to Empire State Weekly. I'm Jamie DeLine in Albany. Newly signed legislation is starting what the Hochul administration calls a new era for accessing birth control. Under new legislation, multiple forms of birth control are now accessible at pharmacies, and not just for state residents. Anyone can come to a pharmacy, fill out a form, and speak with a pharmacist to get birth control to fit their need. They can get up to a year's supply of the contraceptive.
It's important, but especially for people who live in parts of our state where getting an appointment with the doctor could take months and months and months, and that's the reality that many live with. Rural areas, urban areas, there's a lot of parts of our state that it's just a big hassle to walk in and get that prescription, and then they're not protected and able to control their own destiny.
Joining me now to give more insight into what these steps mean for access to birth control in New York State is Health Commissioner Jim McDonald, and thank you so much for joining us.
Jamie, it's great to be here. Thank you so much.
So you recently signed new legislation that would make birth control more accessible for people here in New York State. What does this mean for New Yorkers?
Yeah, so what we did is what's called a standing order. It's a blanket prescription. So what it means is if you're someone who doesn't have a doctor, or maybe you're visiting from out of state, or you just need contraception, whether it's the pill, the patch, or the ring, you can walk into a participating pharmacy, present yourself, have a conversation with the pharmacist, do an evaluation where they just ask you questions, and then you can get up to a year's supply of contraception, whether it's the pill, the patch, or the ring. And when I mean the pill, like either a normal everyday birth control pill or the mini pill, and the patch, something people put on their arm, somewhere else on their body, or the vaginal ring.
Now, what are the difference between the mini pills and the regular pills?
Yeah, so it's interesting. When you think about the regular pills and the mini pills, it's just really what are the drugs that are actually in there? But they're both very effective forms of contraception. But they're the type of pill you take every day. I think it's what people traditionally call a birth control pill. But both sort of work a little bit differently, but they're both very effective forms of preventing pregnancy.
Now, you talked about an evaluation. What does that exactly entail?
Yeah, so you have a conversation with the pharmacist. You fill out a few papers, a little bit about yourself. Really, the pharmacist just evaluating, do you have any risk factors we should know about? Are you a smoker, prone to blood clots? Is there something that we should be concerned about that would make one form of contraception a more safer choice for you than another? And that's really what the pharmacist will do. Remember, a pharmacist is a licensed professional, knows a lot about the drugs you're using there, and can really help guide you towards making the best choice for you.
And when it comes to the choices between the 3 different types of contraception, how do you determine which one is right for you?
Yeah, so a lot of times it's really what you prefer, right? Some people find like taking a pill every day can be a challenge. My goodness gracious, all of us who take a pill every day sometimes forget. You know, with contraception, that could lead to an unintended pregnancy. So to that extent, someone might be more comfortable with a patch where you put it on once a week, every week for 3 weeks, take it off the 4th week, do it every, cycle. That might be better for some people. For other people, they may just prefer the convenience of having a vaginal ring, which goes in for a longer period of time. And really, it's about customizing to the individual, what is your preferred form of contraception?
Is there an age group that's able to now walk into a pharmacy and ask for this?
So really, it's anyone who can become pregnant. There's no minimum age for this. The pharmacists will use their professional judgment and evaluate, does the person able to understand what we're talking about? Because quite frankly, sometimes that's an issue, right? And then just help people make the best choice possible. But there is no minimum age per se. I think sometimes, parents are thinking like, I'd really like to know what's going on with my kids. I think it's really important for parents to have the relationship with your teenagers where we're talking about these things. I mean, talking about sexual health is a normal, healthy thing to do with our teenagers. Yet I can tell you as a pediatrician, not every parent has that relationship with their child. And sometimes teenagers are doing things without parents knowing it. We don't want teenagers to become pregnant. And this is one of those things where if a teen feels they need to walk into a pharmacy, have that evaluation with the pharmacist, the conversation, filling out the papers, they can do that and have it filled like any other prescription.
And if you're a parent, how do you go about talking about this with your children?
One of the things that's really important about talking to teenagers is answering questions honestly and answering them when they're asked, even if it's not a convenient time for you. One of the things about adolescents in particular is when they want to talk about something is the time when you as a parent need to be available to talk about it, regardless of what you're doing. So I think that's one thing, is be available. The second thing is don't shy away from the question. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. This is a normal biological activity. Just answer the questions matter-of-factly. If you don't know, tell people you don't know. It's your child. You should have that relationship. I think it's so important, though, to be accessible and be honest. That's all our teenagers are looking for from us.
Now, I know you were just with the governor earlier this week signing this into law. When does it really take effect?
So the prescription I signed is effective now, but you need to have the pharmacies have time to comply with the state education requirements. and come on board. So for some pharmacies, that might be a week or two. For others, it might be a month. You know, we know the vast majority of pharmacies planning on participating with this. You know, so I would give the pharmacies a little bit of time for the rollout.
And how does this impact pharmacists in particular?
Yeah, so the pharmacists we've talked to are eager to participate with this. I mean, I think we've learned throughout a lot of things, pandemic included, pharmacists play a large role in our lives and a large role in our healthcare. So, and pharmacists know how to do this. Pharmacists, you know, will get the training they need, but they know how to, you know, process information, answer people's questions, and help people make the best choice for them. You know, keep in mind, our pharmacists are experts in pharmacology.
Is there anything else that you think New Yorkers need to know when it comes to birth control or contraception in any way?
So New York is trying to be a state where we really protect reproductive rights. I think it's really important. This is one more piece to just that full armamentarium protecting everyone's reproductive rights. But one of the things about the standing order that I signed is if you're visiting from out of state or you want to come to the state for this, you're welcome to do that. You can get a year's supply at a time. But one of the things that's really important is we're just trying to make this accessible to folks. Really, it's about helping people have that individual autonomy to make your own decisions, but it's really about health equity. And it's just about making it so when you want to have a child, you can do that on your own terms at the time that makes the most sense for you.
I know you mentioned the year's supply. Do you you must just tell your pharmacist up front, I would like a year's supply of this, and they'll just hand you a year's supply?
Have the conversation. If they have it in stock, there's no reason why they wouldn't give it to you. It's not a bad way to do contraception, by the way. You know, it's up to people how they like to go. Some people like to go to the pharmacy every month. Some people prefer not to. You know, folks are busy. You have to do what makes sense for you.
And can you talk a little bit about health equity when it comes to this new law?
Yeah, when I think about health equity, what I think about intentional things that we do to meet people's individual needs. Health equity is a little different than equality because health equity addresses people's needs. But this is really about making contraception in the form that somebody wants accessible to them. And because the Affordable Care Act, if you have insurance, it's at no cost to you. And so when you really think about health equity, we're making contraception available at, you know, because of the Affordable Care Act, no cost. In New York, we're making it so you don't even need to go see a doctor or healthcare provider because I signed the prescription for you. It's about removing barriers for folks so they can have access to the care they need in the manner they want.
Commissioner McDonald, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Oh, Jamie, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Working to get free school meals to all children in need. That's the push some are making as the budget season continues. We'll break down what lawmakers are asking for in the final state budget. If you have a comment or story idea, let us know. You can email us at news@news10.com. You can also reach out on X, formerly known as Twitter, at WTEN. Welcome back to Empire State Weekly. I'm Jamie DeLine in Albany. Advocates are working to see universal school meals paid for as a part of the finalized state budget. According to lawmakers, over 80% of children in New York are able to receive free meals because of funding in last year's state budget. A bill to make all kids eligible has gained bipartisan support and has been included in this year's proposed Senate and Assembly budgets.
We're putting $200 million in the budget in order to ensure that every single school district will get this funding. It's on top of the funding we've already allocated, so it'll fully meet, I think, even beyond the need of our budget ask.
Advocates say this will help reduce the stigma for low-income students. The budget process continuing here in Albany. This past week, top members of the legislature meeting to discuss the recently passed One House budget proposals. At the conference, Assembly Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins touted popular parts of the One House budgets like increased funding for education and proposed protections for homeowners and tenants. The minority leaders voicing their concerns with the proposed budgets.
The $233 billion budget proposed by the governor in January was already unprecedented in size and scope. The Senate added a staggering $13.2 billion.
Every legislative conference agrees that state revenues are coming in stronger than projections. So why are the majorities proposing raising taxes and the governor proposing dipping into our emergency reserves? There's no rational financial need.
Lawmakers will continue to negotiate and bargain over the proposed budget until the deadline of April 1st. Stick around and we'll be back with a look at the week ahead in just a bit. If you have a comment or story idea, let us know. You can email us at news@news10.com. You can also reach out on X, formerly known as Twitter, at WTEN. On Empire State Weekly, New York State officials are taking steps to make sure everyone can safely enjoy the upcoming solar eclipse. Governor Hochul announcing special I Heart New York branded eye protection will be distributed statewide. They'll be available at welcome centers and service areas along the state thruway. The governor warning that basic sunglasses won't offer enough protection and special glasses will be needed to safely view the eclipse, which is set to happen on April 8th. For now, from all of us here on Empire State Weekly, I'm Jamie DeLine in Albany. We'll see you here next week. And don't forget, you can watch Empire State Weekly all over New York State. Here's the full schedule of Empire State Weekly on 10 television stations across New York.